So one of the subscribers, Ted Telford, has asked to strip and rebuild an electric buggy motor. I'm going to do that in this video. I don't actually recommend that you do this because it's very, very difficult to get the motor back again the way the factory have it set up, and they're nearly always noisy. But I'll go through everything. I'll show you how to take the brake off the back, take the motor away from the gearbox, split the motor, and then rebuild the motor again. It's reasonably straightforward. Don't know why you would need to do this because the brushes can be changed from the outside. But let's do it. We'll probably put it on a time lapse because it's going to be pretty boring. So it'll be a short video, and yeah, see how we go. So there's three Allen keys that you have to remove here. So there's three of these 8mm Allen keys to come off, and that removes the brake from the back of the buggy. I don't know if you knew, but it's actually a handbrake. So there's a disc that floats inside the brake here, and that is locked in place when you put your brake on, and it's electric solenoid that actually releases. It sends a 24-volt signal to this to release this handbrake. A lot of people think that this is an actual brake, a resistance brake, but it's not. It's only a handbrake that comes on, and you can actually release it there. You can see that floats. You can see that floats inside. So that's how that comes off. Pretty straightforward. Aside. So the motor itself. This is the back of the motor shaft, and it's got a bolt here, a nut here that's on a grub screw, and it holds. That's what your handbrake locks together on the motor. The motor is held together here with these two long, I think they are 5mm. Yep, perfect. One. Quite tight. You could do with a socket really, rather than just the Allen key, but hey ho. So two of those, and the motor then simply comes away from the gearbox. So the motor has this cush drive, a piece of nylon that sits over there's a split pin or a roll pin on this side of the shaft, and that just floats between that pin. And if you look inside the gearbox side, it's the same pin, and that is they call it a cush drive. The idea is that it takes the vibration away from the motor. Inside there you then have a worm drive which goes onto a helical coil inside the gearbox. So the brushes, you can access the brushes by taking these brush covers off. There's 4 of these in a 24-volt motor, typically 2 in a 12-volt motor. If you're looking to replace the brushes, you can actually just replace the brushes without having to go inside, but anyway, take these 4 out. And the last one. So that's all 4 brushes away from there. Now, we're going to need to take off the grub screw to release this nut, and we're going to have to hammer out this spring pin. So set these aside. These are very, very tight there. They probably use Loctite on that in the factory. You know, again, if you don't have Loctite to put that back in, it's not going to be as good a job as the way the factory would do it. It doesn't need to come all the way out. You'll need a punch and a hammer, and we want to take this drive pin It's important to get the right socket head for these. What is that? That's a PZ3. It's not perfect. PH2. I'm sure there's a better name for that. But anyway, so let's give this a go. They're very tight. So I'm going to go up to a 1/2 inch driver here, because they're really very tight in there. Whoa, so that's 1/2 inch with a PH3 bit. Tried 3 or 4 bits there, and they just wouldn't get a grip on the thread. So it's really important you get the right bit. Otherwise you'll just not, I mean, even that, just not getting the right grip that's needed. So you can see the length of that. It's a very long screw. Wow. Very tight. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of comments here about how to do this properly. Anyway, so that is the inside of the back casing. Okay. You then have your commutator. You can see that has come off with that. We could probably put that in a vise now if we needed to release that. If that bearing was noisy, you would have to release that full of carbon dust. Now this part is where the magnets will kick in, so we just can give that a pull, and that'll pull the inside of your motor out of the inside thrust washer. So you'll see that is spring loaded. That sits there. You are. You've your 4 magnets in there. Your thrust washer sits inside there when you go to rebuild the motor. So I've laid all this out. I mean, I don't really know why you would want to do this, apart from maybe, you know, change these bearings, for example. This is a 6201 2RS bearing here. I mean, if that was making noise, you would maybe want to change those out, but it's very rare. The commutator very rarely needs to be, you can turn these down in the lathe in some cases, but you know, I typically find that when these are worn out, the motor's worn out, so there's no need to really do much with it. So putting this back together then is really just the repeat of how it came apart. There's a couple of things to watch for. There's 2 recesses here, and they allow for this long bolt to find their home. These will typically look to try and attach themselves to the magnets inside the case. They have to slide up in between the 2 magnets, so they're very difficult to locate. Yep, let's put this back together. Hands are stinking, of course. So thrust washer in first. Remember that It's this side of the side that had the drive pin on this plate. Good tip for you is that this is going to try and attach itself to the magnets in there. So grab a screwdriver that is not that hasn't got a great deal of metal on it here. Hold the motor in place with that and drop your case over the top. So as you push the motor down, allow the case to fall into position. Normally these motors have a little groove which it fits into. If not, it'd be a good idea to mark the motor before you take it apart, so as you know which position to put it back in. Save yourself a lot of time. I can see the two holes down here where this needs to line up. So we're going to set this over and line it up like so. Now the fun begins, because we now need to line this up with the holes on this side, which is always fun. There we go. That was quite easy. It doesn't normally go to plan like that. Let's see if we can get 2 for 2. Oh, 2 for 2. Okay, so just check that the motor spins, which it does. It's nice and free. So we have that fairly central. You're really not going to know until you drive it whether that needs adjustment or not. And this is why it's quite difficult to take these apart and put them back together, because you really just don't know. So the brushes drop in like so. There's a little side to these that falls into the groove. Use the cap to put it in nice and straight. One. Don't find that you need to number these brushes, so if you take them out and put them back in the wrong brush carriers, it really doesn't matter. They'll wear pretty uniformly. Yeah, it's not playing ball. What I did with the last one, it wasn't just playing ball, so put it in, hold it in with a screwdriver, use the corner of the brush cap and drop it straight in, and that should generally hold it in place, and then you can drop your brush cover back on and send it home. Try to get the right thread. Okay, 4 brush caps together. Your drive pin. So drive pin will have, one side will have a slight chamfer on it, and that's the side that you want to drive home. If you try and drive the other side home, it's quite difficult to get it to locate. So get that as even as you can. So even both sides. You can see the groove that slits onto on there. The motor's still nice and free. This is minging. So all I'm doing is I'm turning the gearbox so as I can get the gearbox to line up with the push drive on the inside. Once we've got that, long bolts in from here. And there's 2. one on each side. If you're building this up for real, of course you'll put a bit of Loctite on each one of these Allen bolts, just to make sure that they don't back themselves off on the golf course. Lock goes up, so that's your motor, and you can see now as I turn the motor, the back of the motor shaft is turning with the motor, so everything's nice and free. Finally then your brake assembly goes on, and your 3 screws then go in the back of your brake assembly in here. I'm not going to show you that. So look, that's really it. Not a pleasant job at all. Hands will be dirty for approximately 3 months now. There's different versions of these motors, of course, but mostly based on the same principle. You can have a go yourself. If you're stuck in any way, just leave a message in the comments or give me a ring and we'll try and help with it. But yeah, that's it. Until the next video.